What if I told you Cristiano Ronaldo didn't actually fail at the 2026 FIFA World Cup? In fact, Portugal's downfall had already been taking shape long before they faced Spain. Strangely enough, while many analysts were beginning to question Portugal's performances, the internet was flooded with predictions claiming that this would be Ronaldo's World Cup. So what really happened? Looking at Portugal's entire journey in the 2026 World Cup, this story is about much more than a 1-0 defeat to Spain or Cristiano Ronaldo's tears at the final whistle. It's a story of ever-growing expectations, historic records being broken, Roberto Martinez's crucial decisions, and countless predictions that convinced fans Portugal was destined to go deep into the tournament. So let's take a look back at Portugal's journey from the very beginning, all the way to the moment the final whistle against Spain officially brought Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup career to an end. Let's get started. Cristiano Ronaldo's final World Cup. Looking back at Portugal's 2026 World Cup campaign, the pressure on Ronaldo had been building long before the tournament even kicked off. At 41 years old, he arrived knowing this would be his final World Cup and his last chance to win the one major trophy that had always eluded him. With a squad filled with world-class talents such as Bruno Fernandes, Vitinha, Rafael Leao, and João Neves, Portugal entered the tournament as one of the favorites to lift the trophy. That's why all eyes were on Ronaldo, not only because of his legendary status, but because many believed this was his final opportunity to end his international career in the perfect way. However, Portugal's opening match immediately raised doubts. They could only manage a 1-1 draw against DR Congo, and Ronaldo quickly became one of the most heavily criticized players. Many felt he struggled to make an impact in attack, leading critics to question whether age had finally caught up with him. Ronaldo answered every one of those doubts in Portugal's second match against Uzbekistan. He scored twice and made history by becoming the first player ever to appear in and score at 6 different FIFA World Cups. From that moment on, the atmosphere changed completely. The criticism began to fade, Portugal's confidence returned, and the viral predictions that had been circulating before the tournament suddenly gained momentum again. It truly felt as though this was the moment Ronaldo would complete his World Cup story by finally lifting the trophy. Portugal advanced, but their performances started raising questions. Looking back at Portugal's campaign after bouncing back against Uzbekistan, their problems weren't actually over. They did qualify for the knockout stage, but only as runners-up in their group behind Colombia. That result showed they still weren't performing as consistently as the other tournament favorites. Portugal's displays continued to fluctuate, especially against teams capable of applying intense pressure. While the individual quality of their players was never in doubt, they still hadn't found their best form as a team. In my opinion, it was during the group stage that the warning signs first became impossible to ignore. Those concerns became even more evident when Portugal faced Croatia in the round of 32. They managed to advance, but only after an extremely hard-fought match that remained tense until the final minutes. Several VAR decisions, physical battles, and Croatia's relentless pressure prevented Portugal from controlling the game the way many had expected. To me, that match felt more like a warning than a statement of strength. Portugal was still alive in the tournament, but their performances were far from convincing enough to face a more complete opponent. And their next challenge was no ordinary team. It was Spain, their longtime rivals who had looked far more consistent throughout the tournament. The predictions grew louder, but Spain was waiting. In my view, the pressure on Portugal only intensified ahead of their clash with Spain. Spain entered the match as one of the tournament's most consistent teams and was favored by both the media and statistical analysis. Off the pitch, however, a very different narrative was taking shape. A Ghanaian spiritualist, Nana Kwaku Bansam, publicly claimed that the 2026 World Cup was destined to belong to Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal. At the same time, AI predictions, tournament simulations, and expert analyses continued to circulate, convincing many Portugal supporters that their journey was far from over. Social media only added more fuel to the fire. A theory claiming that The Simpsons had predicted a Portugal versus Mexico World Cup final went viral once again, with many people believing it, despite the fact that no such episode has ever existed. In my opinion, all of these narratives only raised expectations for Portugal even higher. By the time match day arrived, the spotlight wasn't focused solely on Ronaldo Ronaldo's showdown with Spain. The bigger question was whether all those predictions and prophecies would finally come true, or end up as myths shattered on the pitch. Portugal's dream ended at the hands of Spain. In my opinion, Portugal looked far more disciplined against Spain. They managed to frustrate their opponents for long stretches and created several dangerous chances of their own. But as the match went on, Spain gradually took control of the tempo. Portugal was forced deeper into defense and struggled to play their way out of the pressure. Then came the decisive moment. Mikel Merino found the back of the net, changing the course of the game. Portugal couldn't find an equalizer. The final whistle blew, and their 2026 World Cup journey officially came to an end in the round of 16. The most unforgettable moment, however, wasn't just the defeat itself. It was Cristiano Ronaldo's reaction after the match. Unable to hide his emotions, he walked off the pitch in tears. Shortly afterward, Ronaldo said he was leaving with a clear conscience because he felt he had given everything for Portugal. Those words seemed to mark the closing chapter of a legendary World Cup career. After 6 tournaments, countless records, and dozens of matches, Ronaldo's lifelong dream of becoming a World Cup champion finally came to an end at the hands of Portugal's greatest rivals, Spain. The end of an era, not the end of a legend. Looking at the reaction after Portugal's elimination, almost every discussion focused not on the tactics or the result, but on the end of Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup journey. Media outlets around the world described the moment as the end of an era. Roberto Martinez also paid tribute to Ronaldo, emphasizing that his contribution to Portugal could never be measured by goals or trophies alone. Even Portugal's players gathered around their captain to support him after the final whistle. To me, that showed just how much influence Ronaldo had within the team, far beyond what anyone could see during the 90 minutes on the pitch. Although he never fulfilled his dream of becoming a World Cup champion, Ronaldo's legacy remains untouched. He ended his World Cup career as the first player in history to appear in and score at 6 different FIFA World Cups, an achievement no one else has ever accomplished. The World Cup may never have belonged to him, but football history will always remember how he continued to defy age, carried the expectations of millions, and kept fighting until his last match. That's why, in my opinion, the 2026 World Cup wasn't a story about Cristiano Ronaldo's failure. It was an emotional farewell to one of the greatest careers the game of football has ever seen. In the end, the 2026 World Cup wasn't the ending Cristiano Ronaldo had dreamed of, but behind the tears and Portugal's elimination, he still left behind records, history, and a legacy that will be incredibly difficult for anyone to match. The trophy never came, but his name had already secured its place in football history. So, what do you think? Was Portugal's failure at the 2026 World Cup mainly caused by the team's performances, Roberto Martinez's decisions, or was Spain simply the better side? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth football analysis.